Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today I've got one of my favorite guests yet. This is almost our 150th show, and because sometimes we interview more than one people, it's almost our 200th guest. We're getting close. And Morris Mashon is absolutely one of my favorite people, not just in Ponchatoula, but anywhere in the world. We've known each other since we were teenagers, so we've kind of grown up together. I've seen him go from being one of my father's favorite deputies at the sheriff's office to a great popular Ponchatoula PD officer to leave law enforcement behind and go into the business world where he's had great success, from managing finance at auto dealerships and much more. I'm sure he'll tell you about his career, but now is his favorite job, at least of mine, because he's cooking up some of the most delicious barbecue and other items that you can get with his beautiful wife. They've got Tootsie's BBQ and catering food truck, and I'm sure you've seen it around town. I hope you've tasted it. If you haven't yet, you need to do that soon. But with no further ado, my good pal Morris Mashon. Mo, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. It's been a while in the making, but here we are,
Yeah,
and
we've been working to get you on here, and I know you've been busy because you're in such high demand. But why don't we kick things off with you just telling our viewers and our listeners a little bit about yourself?
well, I grew up in Ponchatoula. I was the uh, born in born at Seventh Ward. That was tells you how long I've been here. You
You
know,
and I are so old,
I
long
I
before
know.
North Oaks. You don't have the gray in the beard yet like I do, but you're
Oh,
you're
I
still
do.
pre-North
You
Oaks.
just can't see it from. It's the angle, Parker. It's the angle. You can't see the gray.
Gotcha,
But
gotcha.
no, we I grew up off of West McClellan Street in Trisha's Trailer Park.
Cool.
Right there, Jackson and McClellan. I grew up. I remember the days of where Bonan's is where City Hall is now, and you know the donut shop where CVS is in that area.
Right.
We grew up in Ponchatoula. It was the good old
Absolutely.
days.
You
Um,
mentioned that my cousin, my late cousin John Vaughn, who I just loved, he was a bag guy at Bonings in City Hall. That was my first memory of that grocery store. And the donut shop was the place we'd try to sneak to after hours when our parents were in bed and we were up to no good. And that place was, kind of, it's weird to think we have so many more people now, but there's like less 24-hour action.
right.
Danny Williams came on this show a while back. His family owned the coffee pot restaurant, which was famous, all those years ago. They didn't even have a key to that place. It opened 24/7, 365, Christmas Day, you name it.
Yeah, Waffle
And
House beat.
yeah, right, exactly.
It
And
didn't
that, yeah,
matter.
that Waffle House is kind of the only thing going 24/7, it seems.
Right.
But well, let's talk about what life was like then, because you bring back some fond memories for me. Riding my bike around town to those places, stacking up quarters so that I could play video games at the donut shop, or go to the supermarket. They had those little vending machines, and you could buy slime or silly putty or whatever.
Well,
But what
right
did you
behind,
get into as a kid? What did you
well,
do for fun?
right behind the donut shop, remember there was a laundromat, and in the
Oh yeah.
laundromat they had all of the video arcades, and they had the Simpsons game, and I can't
Uh
remember the
huh.
other one, but and then Danny's Fried Chicken is where Hi Ho is now,
Right.
and was for years. And I'm trying to think what the name of the grocery store was that was at where Bonan's is now. Was it
That was A&P back in the
A and
day.
P? Yeah,
Yeah.
A&P back in the day. And I
Yeah.
always laugh because when we start thinking about grocery stores, when signs were signs, they had the little round reflecting in the front of Bonan's in the front where City Hall is. When the wind blew, you got to see what the name of the building was. It wasn't no
Right.
digital when we was growing up. I mean, I'm 43,
Yeah.
and but we rode our bikes all over town.
Hmm.
It wasn't as the way it is today. You can do anything you wanted to do, but you got called on it if you was wrong. You
Yeah.
know,
Right. It was a
high
level of accountability that differs from today.
Well, and the difference is today and what it was when we was kids, all our daddies grew up together.
True.
So,
They all knew one another. Right.
you know, I saw your boy over here and he's good,
Yeah.
he did something wrong. So, and Mr.
Yeah.
Eddie would be like, I saw you dad at the grocery store. I saw this and
Yeah.
it's I had a father and I had a daddy. My daddy was Jerry Niehaus. That was my godfather.
Oh man,
He
he was the
pretty
best.
much,
Yeah.
he was. And I know people's going to be like, that's kind of weird to say, but that's just me.
Yeah, no, I think
He
people get
was
that.
he was my best friend. I
Well,
mean,
tell
he
us about
was.
Jerry and the influence he had on your life, because I just think of him wherever I would see him out in the community, we'd sit next to each other at the bar, wherever we'd be. He always greeted me. He was just so friendly. I can't ever think, I could never just remember, not just a crossword with me and him, but he just seemed to get along with people, and he was just so well loved. But y'all had a special relationship, like you said. I mean, he was a mentor to you. Y'all were incredibly close.
My
Tell us about that if you don't mind. Share
my
that
my
relationship with us.
entire life. I mean, he was from the time that I was born. He and my father were best friends growing up, and they worked together. And
Mhm.
he kind of took me under his wing. He was my godfather. Um, I mean, every weekend back then we went to the mall in Ham, and that was the
Yeah.
thing to do. Everybody went to the mall, and he was just the most genuine, caring human being I've ever met. Ever had to be in my life, and he would never tell me what I wanted to hear. He'd always tell me what I needed to hear. And there were times that I didn't like what he had to say,
Mhm.
but I attribute to the man that I am today to him,
Yeah.
because I could have went any direction in life. I'll never forget whenever I got the job at the sheriff's office,
Mhm.
he brought me to the old substation, like where
Oh, the little
big,
bitty one on the
the
corner
little one,
of the interstate.
where
Yeah.
Big Wheel is, and
Yeah.
Lori was the sheriff's secretary then. I mean, I was 17, I fixing to turn 18 years old, scared to death, and I'm meeting with the sheriff in his office, and we're talking, and I mean, he pretty much helped me get on there, which
Yeah. Well,
you know,
my dad thought the world of Mr. Jerry, and I know if he vouched for you, he probably hired you automatically
oh
on the
yeah,
spot.
didn't take long, but
Yeah.
he was just, and everybody that knew him knew that he was just a genuine guy. I mean,
Right.
he
That
was he was
that's the
never
word.
married.
Genuine is what I was that was the essence I was searching for earlier. That's
Yeah,
what he was. He was
he
genuine.
he never had any kids of his own. I was pretty much his child. I mean, I have a brother that, he went astray in his own way in life, and but he basically raised the both of us to be his own. And later on in life, whenever he was grown, we both took our own paths in life. God bless him. If it's,
Mhm.
I wish him the best in life, and I hope he succeeds in whatever he does. But um, we don't have that relationship. But
Yeah.
it's I lost my train of thought here, but
But
no,
but we're talking
Jerry.
about Mr. Jerry, and
Yeah,
I wanna thank you, Morris, for mentioning him, because, unfortunately, he's not with us any longer, and he was beloved while I was here. But one of the biggest reasons I did this show, which kind of came up around the pandemic times when people were holed up, but I wanted to share the stories of the people of Ponchatoula. I noticed a lot of my dad's friends passing on. For example, Bill Johnson, the best storyteller I ever met in my life, comes to mind. And it's like, oh, I wish I had, Coach Johnson on tape telling some stories. And Jerry would be part of that. It's just people loved him. Of course, the Niehaus family is a very important one here in Ponchatoula. I mean, we think of our buddy Worm, who's a Niehaus,
right.
my neighbor Heather Niehaus parent, and or Nick Niehaus, who I love and hadn't seen in a million years, and all these great Niehauses all around town. It's a great family, and Jerry was really, among the best of them. So,
And he gave everybody a nickname. I mean,
yeah,
if it that was his thing.
yeah. Well,
If
you've
he,
been a man of many nicknames. So, which one
oh,
did he give you?
well, I mean, I equate. There's many. I'm sure he's calling me, but when we talk about the Niehaus family, I'm pretty much a Niehaus at heart,
Yeah.
because they've pretty much adopted me into that era.
Right.
So,
Well, they're good people. I've always had a ton of it passed down from my parents, dad and mom, especially dad, just thought the world of that family, and we all do. And speaking of family and good people, Ronette, right here. Hey, look at those beautiful girls on your Facebook pics. I miss those pretty little girls I used to see at Strawberry Castle all the time. She says to you, Morris, that she's so proud for your success, and she knows Uncle Jerry is looking down on you, beaming with pride.
yeah,
How's
he's
that make you feel? That's got to
it's
hit you in the heart
good.
the right
I
way, huh?
mean, yeah, I'm trying to keep every time I get to talk to him, I was his pretty much his sole caregiver to the end, and
Mhm.
I would never change that for the infinity of the world. I mean, if you told me I had to give me $1 million tomorrow to go back and change that, I'd tell you to keep your money, because that's just he meant the world to me.
Yeah.
So, and it's like
Y'all
I
were lucky
said,
to have each other. It's a fine pair. It was a good two-way street. And as you mentioned there, you took care of him at the end. He may have raised you up, but you helped, make sure he was never alone till the day he
that's
died. And that's
sure.
important in life.
Well, that's enough of the sappiness. You're gonna have me crying here in a
We'll get
minute.
off that, but I do want to say, so here we go. Christopher Lanson
That's my
chimes in and says, "Go
father-in-law.
get him, Mo." So
Yeah,
we're gonna go get him.
that's my pa-in-law.
Oh, good
Yeah,
deal.
he's a Metairie, so he's he's down there watching now.
Well,
So
we're going to get into that part of the family a little later. I'm going to ask you about your wonderful wife, who I've had the pleasure of meeting, and is your partner in your venture. You make the delicious barbecue. She's got the mac and cheese recipe from their clan, and that's all great. And folks, that's coming. So if you want to hear about barbecue, catering, and this great brand new venture Tootsie's got going, we'll get into that. But before we do that, so we're here with Morris Mashon. We're talking about growing up in Ponchatoula and the people who have had an impact on your life. And Jerry, you mentioned Jerry bringing you to the substation. Laurie Neal Gideon is the secretary, kind of the guardian at the gate for the sheriff. My father, he hires you. I mean, I'm just a few years older than you are, so I'm probably a senior in college when you're this, fresh faced 17-year-old coming up there. But we're all buddies. You, me, Bree, Steve Parrow. We got all our gang that eventually end up hanging out. But what was that like? You mentioned kind of the shock of, wow, I got a job with the sheriff. But you didn't go start out on the road, or, I mean,
mm.
you paid your dues in the jail. So tell me what law enforcement life was like, starting there at, the quote unquote bottom, so to speak, working
Well,
your way up.
I had a little difference. I had, as anybody that knows me, I had a weight problem my entire life, and when I started, I was much man. 17-year-old, I was much man, and I'm blessed that I'm fortunate to have lost a ton of weight and got healthier than I was, and
Well, I want to commend you on that because that's a battle of mine. But I will never forget. I'm sorry to interrupt your story, but while you're on that topic, when you graduated the police academy, and I'll let you tell the story of the deal you made with my father on how you got there. But you had lost, I think, 100 pounds to get to the police academy, which is very physically rigorous. You're going to do all that running. You do all that. I mean, man, the thunderous applause you got from your classmates and their families who had been hearing about you for all these. I mean, it was amazing, man. I was really inspired. I just showed up to see my buddy graduate, but I walked away with kind of a tearjerker, like Disney movie moment. So, if you don't mind, share that story
yeah,
with everyone because it's an inspirational one.
and I did, and just about everything I've ever done in my life, I've worked for.
Yeah,
I started the sheriff's office in 1998, 99, and when I worked in the jail for several years, and I was fortunate. I worked my way up. Then I went to inmate labor, which was, we made sure the parish was clean and trash was picked up. And I went to reserve school in the meantime, and I would work the road for free. I would work my normal hours at the jail, and then I'd work the road for free. And my experience, and I learned experience that I could never bring back. And this was like I said, early 2000s, late end of the 90s, and
hmm,
totally different world now than
yeah,
what it was then.
true.
Um, but it was the sheriff's office, was the camaraderie was there. We was
Hmm.
all friends out of it. We did things outside of work together. But going back to your point, I worked my way up there. Then it was time, in my career, I want to excel because I would work sometimes 7 days a week. I'd work my regular schedule at the jail, and then I'd work on the road, and I would do for free just to get the experience because I wanted it so bad. Well, like you said, I made a deal. I lose a bunch of weight before the sheriff would send me to post. Well, held up my end, and
Right.
I went to the academy, and after that I was assigned to the road and the
Yeah.
criminal patrol division, and that was a start of my career till 2011. I was When I left, I was a sergeant at Ponchatoula PD under Bree.
Right.
Whenever I left,
So you work for
uh,
both layers. I'm not going
I
to ask you to
did.
compare them because Bree's still got a job to do and he's got to get reelected every 4 years. But I bet you could tell some stories working for Eddie Larison and Bree Larison.
Well, one thing I'll tell you about Bree is even though all of us were friends and we grew up together, he never let that interfere with running the police department. I never got any
Right.
special treatment because he was friends and we were friends, and he was probably as tough on me or tougher than he would have been on anybody else because, he wouldn't let that stigma come in that
Yeah.
he had
And he knows
favoritism
what you're
in that.
capable of too, right? I mean, he saw you earn everything you ever had and work through, some really difficult challenges, professionally, personally. That's the thing about your friends. They kind of see it all. So
Well,
that's a
yeah.
neat, inspiring story. And I know people in Ponchatoula still, know you, love you because you were a very popular officer. You were kind of beloved in the community, and a lot of us were sad to see you go. We all, of course, understood why, and we support you because you got families to support, and law enforcement doesn't pay as much as it should. So, how does that transition come about? Because
But
as you mentioned, you had success. You were a sergeant. You had rank. You had worked your way up. How did you get the idea to move on in a different direction?
just a friend of mine that I knew, he was in the car business, and I ran into him one time, and I just said, I got fixated on it, and I said, that's something that I could do, and I want to change my career. Well, I left, and like I said, 2011, I went to the car business, and I went to be a salesman, and
Mhm.
within, I don't know, less than a year, I was promoted to the F&I manager, finance and insurance. I did that, and my career up till, I don't know, 2000, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago when I went to the credit union world, and here I am selling barbecue now. So, but
We're soon going to get into that because I want to people know me and can tell looking at me. I like to eat, but I know my food. I've been around, and I'm a big fan of yours. So I want to share that with people because if they haven't had the experience of your delicious cooking, I want them to get that. But before we do, I want to ask you this because Morris, what I'm learning here and want to share with folks. Some of this I guess I really knew because I watched your career progress firsthand as a friend, but you have achieved success in whatever you've done. I mean, law enforcement, like you said, the Larisons were not throwing out special favors just because we were friends. Daddy started you in the jail and eventually made a deal to move you up, but you had to earn your way there and it took a while. There were no shortcuts or fast tracks. And the same's true when you're working at the PD once Bree becomes chief. But then you go out into this whole different world. And we're no longer talking about people that grew up with Jerry Niehaus and knew you since you were a teenager. It's a meritocracy at a car lot, right? I mean, you cannot become the F&I manager unless you're kicking butt, and you did it very quickly. And then you're essentially getting recruited away from there because you're kind of known to be such a good financial whiz. So I guess what I'm getting at here is kind of, are there any secrets of your success you want to share? Because I'm seeing this kind of, consistent, theme here of progression and accomplishment and self-sufficiency. So what do you attribute your success to? Is there a secret sauce or what's the deal there?
I wouldn't say there's a secret sauce. It's just that I just refuse to let anybody tell me what I can't do. I when I went to the car business, you don't get promoted unless you sell a bunch of cars. So I sold a bunch of cars, and I worked in Baton Rouge when it's not like working in Hammond. Working in
Yeah.
Baton Rouge, I'd work from 8:30 in the morning till 8,
Uh-huh.
9, 10 o'clock at night, and it's a different world over there than it is here, even in New Orleans. Hammond car lots, they close a little after the the sun goes down. Not over there, and I
We
just
got that
couldn't do.
country mouse work ethic over here. I got two brothers that are attorneys and they work in cities, New Orleans and Houston. And like Baton Rouge, they stay up later. They work later. They look at me in my office and like, wait, you close at noon on Fridays? What's the deal with that? But you're right. It's a different speed of a treadmill that you were on, but
I
you found a way to
just
excel there.
I just always believed that I believed in me.
Yeah.
Like you said, nobody's ever given me anything. You know, Contrary to belief, I'm not that popular in my own mind anyway. A lot of people are
I don't believe
popular.
that you are, but
Well, you know what I mean. People in your own mind. Some people they think they're more popular than
sure.
they are. But I don't live my life that way. I know a
Right.
lot of people, yes, but I just want to do right by people. I want to just you know do and grow and just be a genuine person. I want to be the same person today as you see me the next time. I might be a little more grumpy, but or less grumpy, but you always going to know where I stand.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just
No,
believe that's important.
right. No, you
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 know,
bring a truth to you, and there's a conviction there that you don't waver from. But speaking of friends and popularity and in business stuff, Trisha Nicholas, hello Trisha, we all love her, and she says good evening friends, and she also says, wait, you cook too? You do all the Skirlies and her business goodies. And of course, I do miss that because you did the Parker Layrisson law firm, goodies too. Well, we need something engraved. But Trisha, thank you for commenting. It's wonderful to have you watch the show. You are one of my favorite people in Ponchatoula. You do so much for the kids of the community, from your old days teaching at Strawberry Castle to the days of the ice cream shop. You did so much from Bikes for Kids, folks. There's just no end to what you do for our community. And anyway, so Tricia says here too to you, Mo, that you are. She knows exactly what you mean. But thank you for chiming in here. How's it
Yeah,
make you feel to see people like Tricia, who are community leaders,
yeah.
singing your
I mean,
praises, saying
feel good.
hello? Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, but prior to being barbecue, I had the gracefully engraved. We did, like you said,
right.
we did all the Parker stuff, and unfortunately, I had to. My wonderful wife Carrie, she says I work her 7 days a week as it is. She said you can't work me 10. So we had to give up one to do the other, and my cooking was a bigger dream than my engraving. So
Yeah.
I decided to part ways with that. But
Well, let's get
you
into
know,
that dream, this chapter of your life that's just opened, because we've seen it go from a big leap of, putting this all together and doing it as a side hustle to really going all in, putting all your chips in the middle of the table. And again, like you said earlier, believing in yourself, betting on yourself as an entrepreneur to say, hey, I had success in the public sector, public service as a police officer. I had success in the finance world working for big corporations, but now it's me. It's essentially Moco or
right.
Mo and Jericho. Tell me about this, because I know it's a partner, it's a family thing, it's a husband and wife thing, but it's an incredible business opportunity you seem to have here. Tell us about how it got started and how we got to where we are.
Well, I was doing. I've always liked the cooking aspect, and then we was doing turkeys and briskets and etc. for
Mhm.
Thanksgiving and Christmas. And then I told Carrie, I was like, one day I want to do this full time. It's my dream. I want to have a food truck, or I want to have a restaurant.
Yeah.
It's more or less a restaurant than a food truck. Well, we talked about it. So finally she said, all right, if you want to do it, you got to sell the engraving business before we do it. And I was like, okay, a deal. Well, she hit a hot button. I hurried up and I went and found, she's laughing, but I went and found, I put it for sale. Let's
Right.
go. I mean, if that's all it took.
And then you had Trisha and me and everybody saying,
I
"Mo,
know,
Mo, where'd you
disappointed.
go?"
I know, and but I passed y'all. I don't
Oh,
like
but
to
we're happy
pass
for
y'all.
you. And look, we're taking well, you put us in good hands. You
I
did
put you
right
in good
by us.
hands with
Yeah.
another local business owner.
Right. Right.
And I'm sure she takes great care of y'all. And if I
Absolutely.
don't think that if she wouldn't have, I wouldn't have done it that
Yeah, of
way.
course.
But so we found the trailer, we bought the trailer, and we and I basically did all the work myself. I found out all the legal parts of it, and started a new corporation. I did what I was supposed to do. I found out all the health department, all
Right.
the nitty gritty to running a food business
All the
is,
hoops you
I
gotta
got
jump
y'all
through
very
to be
much
street
hoops. And
legal, because that
yeah,
police officer knows you gotta be street
well,
legal.
it's a lot to it, but you know what? I believe in doing it right, so we did it
Yeah.
right. And you know, we started out doing this Saturday and Sunday. Well, Kara and I would work Monday through Friday, and she still works, by the way. And um, I would
So
work
she's
her
down to
Saturday,
just 2
Sunday.
jobs instead of 3,
Yeah, she's
4,
down to
7.
two instead
Yeah.
of three jobs, so she's happy about that. But we would do it on the weekends, and I'd have it booked. And finally, after a couple months, about 3 or 4 months, she said, we was talking about it, we prayed about it, and we thought about it, and I said, what do you think? And she's like, if you believe you can do it, do it. So I gave my previous employer a 6 week notice, and in that time, I tried to build as much as I could, and here we are. I'm
Yeah.
my top. I book up as much as I can. I
How's
try
it
to do.
going? Because it seems good. I mean, when I come, you got a line, people are buying. I mean, has it met your expectations?
Well, it has, and you always want more, but yeah, I'm blessed to have what I have, and if it's a
Mhm.
little bit more each time, it's a little bit more, and it's I'm paying my bills, and I'm growing the business, and
Yeah.
I get to buy Carrie a few more nice things now, since I give her bonus every week because
She
she's
deserves that and
HR.
more.
Look, she's HR. She's the she signs the checks.
Mhm.
She's food safety.
Yeah.
I'll say something. She's like, come on now. I'm like, okay, I got you. So
Right,
I'll take a
right.
step back, and but look, I could nothing that I do I could have done without her.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that because she's sitting in the room, but I brag. I
Thank you for
brag.
giving her credit. And of course, you and I have talked about her, off its camera plenty times, and to the point of like, hey, it's her family recipe that's
Right,
delicious mac and cheese my kids can't get enough of. That's her.
right. Look, I take no credit for the sides. She does all the sides. I mean, I
That's
do the
great.
meats, and I can kind of wing it to what she does, but it's not the same. But and just to backtrack a little bit with her, we've and we made sure we told her it's a family recipe. Don't worry. She's critiquing me in the corner. Make sure you know it's a family recipe. It
Oh yeah, no,
definitely
no. It's a
is.
family recipe, and it's grandma's family
Yeah,
recipe.
grandma's at that.
Yes,
So
a few tweaks. I'm not going to get into those details. I think that's a trade secret as to but yeah,
yeah,
it's not a Mashon family
no, it's not
recipe,
a
right?
Mashon. It's not Tootsie's. No way near. Mac and cheese, like we was talking about for Morris, is some Velveeta in a box. I mean,
It's a Lanson family recipe, I guess. Was that the right
it's
grandma?
yeah,
Okay.
that's what it is. And but let me backtrack a little bit. We're married, and I have a son that's 21, and we have, and I don't like to use the word step and all that. It's
Right.
my kids as well. We have a 21-year-old daughter and a 27 that lives in Arizona. We have a 3-year-old beautiful grandson, and we have another one that's on the way. So Tootsie's been
Congratulations.
busy.
Yeah.
Tootsie's house is busy, and Nolan's is the grandbaby's name, and he looks at the food truck and he says, "That's Mr. Pig." He calls the pig on the side of my truck Mr. Pig. So
That's great.
he he loves it. He asks him, "You want brisket?" "Yeah, I want brisket." That's his thing. So, but I didn't want to leave them out of the talk, so I
Right.
wanted to
Well,
make
I'm going to
sure.
share a picture of that so you can see the side of the food truck there with the pig that he's talking about. And I know Trisha Nicholas, you had a question about that. So the phone number's on there. You can see the name of the business there. It's, as I understand, it's not just barbecue. You do catering too, right? So
Right,
you have the food truck. You can go to the Facebook page, figure out where y'all are going to be there, but also you cater events. And I know that you're working with my team, so we're going to do a client appreciation event where we're going to serve Tootsie's barbecue and all of Carrie's delicious
right,
sides.
right. Yeah,
Make
yeah.
sure we give all the right credit.
We do
But
just about
well, how do
everything.
you go about getting the truck? Because we've seen, I mean, right now it's kind of an historic moment in Ponchatoula food history, if you will, in that our most famous food truck, to date before yours came along, is clearly Nola Mia,
Right,
which has huge success all over the southeast Louisiana. And here we are, they just opened their restaurant. So you mentioned your dream of a restaurant. Mateus and Rebecca have been on the show. They're wonderful people like you and Carrie, another husband and wife team that get it done with a big family. But they've seen that slow process, happen. And here we are, they have this beautiful restaurant that just opened. They're doing gangbusters business. So we all, of course, hope for the barbecue version of that for you. But how does this kind of process get started? Like, because we're looking at this truck, picture of it. Where do you go to get a food truck? I don't. I mean,
I
about
mean,
cars. I know where to go get an F-150, but I have no idea where to get a food
well,
truck.
you,
So how
you
does
know,
that whole
I've,
scene operate?
well,
How do you
I've
get
kind of
into it?
always been a wheeler and dealer anyway, so it's
True that.
there. I can always find some. Well, I just looked and looked, and I found, and this truck may not be exactly what I want or
Uh huh.
wanted, but it got us a start. And
Right.
it's what we could afford at the time. So,
Yeah.
it's going to grow into a different version, or it might even be
Yeah.
a second to
What?
have another one and be a backup. But who
Not unlike
knows?
that first truck you get in high school is not
Right.
probably a Lariat or a King Ranch
Right.
model,
Oh,
right?
I
I
had
mean,
a 1987 Toyota single cab with that was the best truck. I wish I could go back today
yeah.
and have that truck,
It's funny you say that. My dad still got so the Larison boys, all four of us drove the first truck. You remember the Green
Yeah, I
Machine.
rode in it many time.
Yeah. Well, my dad's still got it. It's a 78 Ford. It's the same age as Bree. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, at the time I'm like, oh, I want the hot new thing. But, looking back, I love that old truck.
Well, it's still
Speaking
got
of
a
great
lot
guys,
more
great
paint
trucks.
though.
Look, oh, I'm
It's got
sorry. What did you
that
say,
truck's
bud?
got a little more paint on it than Breeze got, so it's you know.
Let me share this comment here from our mutual good friend Kevin Rayford and his dear wife Karen. They say, "Congrats, Morris. You've always been a hardworking man, and they are proud of your success." That's got to feel good coming from one of
Yeah.
the top community leaders, the assessor for the whole parish. You joked earlier you didn't feel that popular, but these comments would suggest otherwise. Um, you know, I want to ask a question about small business ownership, because it's been my, and you mentioned, you said something earlier that I found pretty profound, and I certainly agree with it. As a small business owner, I've been, with this little law practice. My first office was not the office I wanted. I was on a handshake deal with Andrew Edwards for a little bit of space, and we honored that handshake deal for 12 years. We never drew up a lease. Who would have thought two lawyers could do something without paperwork? But eventually I got the office of my dreams, on the corner. It took longer than I expected. It was probably harder than I expected. But for me, it's been kind of a snowball. And it's easy to want much more than you have. But, and it's not a linear, when you go from here to there, it's not always a straight arrow, it's just jagged kind of up and down. But when I've had kind of very quick upticks in work, I mean, I might always say, I want 10 more cases and 10 times as big a case or whatever. But then you kind of get what you want. You realize, ooh, you got to double in size and staff to handle that. So, but for me, the overall thing has been kind of a snowball. And 22 years into practicing law, 2,000 clients in, that's a whole lot of rear end accidents and people who have been thankfully mostly happy with our work. And it's just built up. And I don't know whether food service is like that, whether it's more of a rocket ship up, but I look at the Nola Mia experience and I think in some ways they're probably like, oh, wish we'd be in this building 3 years ago. But then in others, I bet they're like, because I know what an awesome team they have from, Kevin Hood and all those guys that have been with them forever. Maybe it's God's way of just kind of putting things on the right timeline on his time than yours. But how do you feel about the trajectory of this thing? Do you see it burning fast and running hot and growing big quickly, or
Well,
or is it going to be low and slow like a brisket?
I hope it's low and slow for a while,
Yeah,
until we build it up, and because if things get too hot too quick, you eventually burn yourself.
yeah, true.
If you
Good
think of it
line.
that way. And,
Yeah.
and I completely just pulled that out of thin air. I didn't. That's not a life I live by. But if you think about it,
No, but that's
you know,
perfect for the food truck
I
episode.
mean,
That's
it's a good
perfect line.
analogy.
Yeah,
But I mean, look, we being a small business owner, and it's I never had the dream that I would work for myself, but now that I'm 100% working for myself, or Carrie, should I say? I work for Carrie, and
I hope you wished her happy Bosses Day
I did.
yesterday.
I actually
Okay,
did it on my Facebook page, so you can
smart
see.
man.
I saw yours, and it kind of inspired me. I said, let me go ahead and hurry up and do it.
Good deal.
But I want to grow it to where it's manageable, the where I don't lose what the product that I have and who I am,
Right.
because I don't want it to be the where it's so big the where it loses why you come to me in the first place.
Yeah.
Because if I have to make 15 pans of something to suffice at that time you come in, I want the quality I always say the same. You
Hmm.
know, that's just who I am and who I want to be known for. And social media is brutal,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to the food business.
True.
You
Because
can
people
have
have no grace or patience for food industry anymore. There's no
no,
more let people grow and feel that out. I mean, it's this expectation of perfection, regardless of what food costs are doing. If you go up 10 cents on your item, people are griping, but they still want the quality ingredients and, instant gratification. How do you handle all that? Because I would imagine it hits pretty personally, because you're pouring yourself into this. You're the guy cooking. It's your wife's family recipe. She's cooking the side. I mean, y'all are in this together. when somebody's bitching and moaning about what, how dry the brisket was or wasn't, or, whether the mac and cheese should have used a different noodle or whatever. I'm just making stuff up. But
Right,
yeah,
right. I mean, you
how
just
do you handle that? I mean, how do y'all kind of get past the negativity
well,
that's sometimes on social
fortunately, I've
media?
been kind of blessed. I hadn't had a lot of that, but I'm sure as
Uh-huh.
I grow, I will. And I've had a friend tell me you just have to let it roll off your back because
Yeah.
social media is brutal. The same people that'll sit there and complain that, and I made this post in Tangy Eats as another local group, the same people that will complain that um, something was bad will go to McDonald's 100 times and they will get their order wrong, but will blast you on social media when you do
That's
it
a great
one
point.
time wrong. I mean, think about
Yeah,
it.
that's
I-
true.
Instead of going to the owner or coming to myself, because you know me, I promise you, if something that was not right to your
Yeah.
perfection, I will do everything I can to make it right to where that you enjoyed it. Because
Right.
granted, I do this for a living, but if you think about it, food is happiness.
Yeah.
And when you sit down to eat, you think about Thanksgiving. You say at Thanksgiving, it's time, yeah, we get
Yeah.
to see everybody, but everybody's not always excited to see everybody at Thanksgiving.
True. That's
You
true.
sit down at a table, you
Yeah.
want to see what's coming next. But I like to make people feel good with
Yeah.
the food aspect, because and it's funny because Kara and I, we hardly eat this. I mean,
Really.
we taste it so much. We talking about going trying a different barbecue places. She's like, I can we go to Taco Bell or something? I'm
It
just
just
using that
change it up.
in
Anything
theory.
but barbecue, right?
Right, because we
Yeah.
eat it so much, but I think that in the
Mhm.
food world, consistency is key. You have
Yeah.
to every time that you get something
But it
from me.
takes a while to get there, right? Because at first you're kind of feeling your way through what's the best way to do this, and maybe I want to try to tweak this today to see if it's better. Can I but you're right, consistency is expected, and I feel like people have a different level of patience for fast
Right,
food or national chains, which is sad because when you think about it, it's the locally owned businesses that really sustain the community. I mean, I'm not here to crap on McDonald's or
mm-mm.
McKernan or any of these kind of big franchise players, whether we're in food or law. But the reality is, when you're locally owned, the dollar stays in the community and it goes into PAR to sponsor little girls playing softball and little boys playing baseball. And it's going to be
Right,
concession stand on Friday nights at Ponchatoula High when football season's here. And yeah, it's true. McDonald's hires some local people, pays them a little, but most of the money leaves town in the form of profits. And the same's true for law firms, that are making legal McNuggets. It's just so it's kind of unfair that people hold you to a higher standard. I mean, on one level, your food's way better, so
right, right.
it is cooked to a higher standard.
And I just use that as example. We could use any, let's say Long John Silver's. We don't have one in
Yeah,
here, but they could
right.
go there. And it's a shame because just come to me and tell me if something's not right.
Yeah,
And if after or not just me, I'm just using me as an example. Go to the owner of the business. If it's Trisha with ice cream, or if it's you know somebody who sells hot dogs, tell them so they can make it right. If you don't know, you can't fix it at
yeah,
the end of the day. And I pride myself with being the guy that's going to make it right before. And
yeah,
yeah, I'm sure one day it'll hit me that somebody says something and I'll get aggravated and I'm gonna not but I'll beat myself up over it and then it'll probably bother me. But at the end of the day, you've got food from me several times, and
yeah.
I'm not putting you on the spot, but if something was
Delicious every
wrong,
time,
you
man.
would have
Look,
told me.
it was great. Yeah,
If it was cold or something was wrong, you'd
yeah,
have told me. Now,
yeah,
my style of barbecue may not be
mhm,
everybody's style of
yeah.
barbecue. I don't do
Well,
Texas
and that's the
style.
thing
I
with
don't.
food, like salt barbecue is perfect as a sauce, right? Some people are from Carolina and they like it with vinegar. Some people are from Memphis and they like it sweet. Don't even get me started on how Texas differs from that. I mean,
Right.
there's going to be all these preferences. My wife is Sicilian. Lord knows they can't agree on which way to cook red gravy is the best. I mean, everybody in Independence has grandmother's recipe that they put on. That's why they have that cook up. I mean, that's
Right.
why there's a Sicilian festival and an Italian festival. It's like
Yeah.
whether you're talking hamburgers or anything, we're gonna do, and that's part of what makes it cool is you
Right.
can have these. It's like sports almost, right? Some people root for the smash burgers. Some
Right.
people root for the big
Oh
burger.
yeah, don't if that's a social media fight right now. So let's not
Yeah.
even get into that. But I have a white sauce that nobody that you really won't find anywhere.
Where'd you get? Tell us about how you develop that. Where do
Well,
you
man,
find
it
your
really
inspiration for your
it
sauces and your style?
really wasn't. YouTube, man. I saw a sauce and I said, let me try that. And I tried it and Carrie, bless her heart, she's well, I'll cook something up and I made it and then I kind of followed the recipe and I tweaked it to my own, but it's like it's a vinegar, apple cider
Uh-huh.
vinegar mayonnaise based sauce, but it goes great on chicken. And
Yeah, yeah.
I liked it.
That's an Alabama-based
It's
sauce,
an
right?
Alabama white
Okay.
sauce,
Cool, man. Cool.
but it's Tootsie, it's
But
sassy
it's
sauce.
Tootsie's spin on it, so it doesn't root for Roll Tide. It's an
No,
LSU Tiger rooting
it's actually we call it
Alabama-inspired
sassy
sauce.
sauce. So it's because Carrie's sassy sometimes.
Yeah,
So I call it sassy sauce. So it's
that's cool.
but I do make my own barbecue sauce. I use a base, but I tweak it to what you'll never have something straight out of a jar from me because I want every time to be,
Fresh and
it's
scratch
mine.
cooked. That's awesome.
And I
What
use and I'm gonna just throw this out there, but I
uh-huh.
do believe in using locally like delicious donuts and ham. And
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
use that's who we get our donuts from for our bread pudding that we make.
That's great,
I
yeah.
get them to make me buns for my hamburger for my
And
sandwiches. And
though, that's a great that, the fellow who owns that super nice guy, and it's a good example of the principle we were talking about earlier. They do for the community, man. He's constantly giving donuts to different civic organizations, police officers, firemen, whatever. Like, they're giving back to the community, because it's local folks, and that's the big difference between that and kind of nationally owned businesses with layers of corporate profit motivators. What I want to do is circle back here to your Facebook page here, because before we move off the topic of the food, and again, guys, I give this a ringing endorsement. You're looking at a fat boy that likes to eat and likes to eat well, and it's great stuff. But how do we know where you're going to be? Is the Facebook page the best place? How do we
right.
contact you if we want to cater? Is the phone number
My
the
my
best?
phone number is on there, and if you look down towards the bottom right there, or my bottom right where it says October
Oh, there
schedule,
we go. We got a calendar.
I pin a calendar each month
Perfect.
there, where you'll
Yeah.
see my locations, and anytime that I add or take something off, I will
Hmm.
update it there
Yeah, that's great.
monthly
Hmm.
until I get more tech savvy and having a direct
Yeah, that's
fancy link.
perfect,
But
man.
that's simple, and
Yeah.
sometimes simple's best, and you know,
Well, that's all you need, man. You just need to let the people know where you are and how to contact you to order. And it's been easy. I've done everything from walk up and order on the spot to, using the technology to order ahead of time or whatever. It's all
yeah,
been seamless.
we have an online ordering platform. So,
Yeah, that's
if
really
you want to
cool.
order for lunch, because I know people's time is valuable,
Hmm.
especially at lunchtime, we'll have your order ready time you get there. And
Yeah.
I'll just walk up and tell me your name. And, I for the most part I do it solo, but my son or my son-in-law, they'll help me. And, in the truck, I
Hmm.
don't do it solo, meaning the business
Right.
carries a major factor in this, like, but as far as in the truck, because one day she'll be able to do it full time with me, but for the time being, she's still
Yeah.
she still works full time. But
Well, let
you
me
know,
ask you about lessons that you've learned along the way, because you now started your own business, and as you mentioned earlier, a lot goes into that, from the licensing part to the food safety part to all this stuff. And you and Carrie seem to have a good division of labor, right? It's not just meats over here and sides over there, but other, somebody had to figure out how to do an online platform, somebody has to deal with the social media pages, etc. But along the way, I'm sure, just like I did when I started my law firm all those years ago, you've learned lessons. And I wonder what comes to mind first when I ask you that question of what have you learned so far?
just be you.
Yeah, great
Don't
advice.
don't try to make yourself something you're not. Tootsie's. Carrie and I was sitting there and we was trying to figure out a name. And Tootsie's my childhood nickname, and we thought about this and we thought about that. And she said, "Well, what about Tootsie's?" I'm like, "Well, that's done. There's no better name than that."
No, it
You
fits. And
know?
it also, for those of us that know you and love you and remember you so fondly from those good old days, it reminds us that it's you, right? So, I mean, there's something to that. you could have made it whatever, Porky Pig barbecue. And
Right.
while that might have been cute or whatever, we wouldn't remember that, Morris Mashon stands behind this product. He's the guy cooking it. He's the guy who's going to make it right if, Lord forbid, the order
Right.
isn't right or whatever. And,
And
and that's
eventually,
important.
eventually it's going to turn into the dream. It's just going to turn into a counter service restaurant,
Yeah, that's
eventually.
great.
But it's as of October 17th, 2024, it's not in the plans this month. So
Yeah.
we'll
But
when it
like any
does,
self-made man and woman, as the two of you are, you got to crawl before you walk, and you're
yeah,
going to learn lessons as you crawl that will serve you well when you walk, and it will help you build this
and I
empire.
wear this bracelet every day that says
Tell us
success
about
is
that.
is a state of mind.
Okay.
I've had this armband on for 3 years.
That's
I,
great.
I don't take it off and it's wearing down, but I look at it and it reminds me, the only success you're going to do is what you do.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever going to give you anything. Nobody's ever gave me anything. And I just try to be the best version of me that I can and be the best father I can be the best Tootsie I can be the best husband I can be. Um, you know, I know I'm going down the wormhole now, but do I have faults? Yes. Does
Oh,
everybody
we
have
we
faults?
all do. We're
Everybody
all
does.
sinners, you know.
But at the end of the day, I'm going to be the same
Yeah.
Morris, big sexy Mo Tootsie. If and Carrie said,
All
if
of the
you
above,
really
man.
right, Carrie said, if you know him, you know him by Tootsie from Ponchatoula. I mean,
Right.
that's who I am. If you
Yeah,
really know me,
that's
but
true.
it's I've had a great life, and I've
Yeah.
met great friends like yourself growing up, and shoot,
We've had some fun, man.
we've
That's
had some
true.
fun. I remember your graduation, and
Oh, goodness, man. Yeah, that's true. You were there the
the
night I graduated law school, passed the bar
yeah
exam. We
on
had
a
some
on a
fun.
who would have ever thought we'd be overlooking the city on the roof of the Hotel Montleon? I mean
That was
that
a
was
fun night. Yeah.
I've had that picture somewhere. I have to find it, but I still
Well, if you
have it.
lost it, I can get it to
Yeah,
you because I
but
still have mine.
man,
It's
that was
cherished. Yeah.
we've been the best of friends for
Yeah.
30 plus years. I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
and
it's wild to look back on it, and I couldn't tell. I can tell you this, Mo. I'm so proud of you and so happy for you to have found the wonderful woman that you have. To have this family, because I know that's what you're so much about, and it shines through everything you do. To be such a good father, now grandfather. I mean, that's just
right.
exciting to see your family growing. But to see you now in your own business, I mean, it's not the first time that I'm proud of you. It's not the fourth or fifth, probably. It's a long list, but it's time. It's this next
Talk about
evolution.
a celebrity just coming
Oh
into
my,
the
yeah, no lie. Look at
man.
celebrity
Look at
Jay
this.
Wesley Daniels. Speaking of old friends we're proud of, the mayor's in the house.
The mayor's in the house. I mean,
Wesley, good
look.
to have you, man.
I mean,
Um,
he
but let
learned
me
that
share this
he
comment for the
learned a lot.
listeners that don't see us and don't know what we're talking about. So, Mayor James Wesley Daniels II has come on here to comment to say that he's proud of you, Morris, and you are a great guy. And of course, I agree. And what's the old saying? It takes one to know one.
That's right.
Wesley, I'm sure Mo, Tootsie and I feel the same way about you. I know I do. But what a great quote to end on. What a great person to end on. Morris, I'm going to ask you one question before you go. I promise you I'll be respectful of your time. And we're at the 47-minute mark. So we need to get going so you can get back to Carrie because she's probably got some work for you to do. But, and I know I can hear my kids in the next room. They're ready to see me. But before we go, do you have anything else on your mind, on your heart, just anything at all you want to share with our listeners and our viewers before we say goodbye for the week?
No, I just think that, like you said, it's important to or I said rather, just be true to yourself. I mean, if you want to do it, do it. If you want to be a ditch digger for the rest of your life and that makes you happy, do it. Don't ever let somebody tell you what you can't do and what you're doing is wrong. The people who tell you you're doing wrong is generally scared to do it themselves.
Yeah.
You
That's
got to look what they've been.
Yeah,
If
that's
they
great
ain't never
advice.
done nothing in their life and they're trying to tell you what to do,
Yeah.
that's probably not the person to listen to.
Yeah, consider the source. And a lot of people are not looking to uplift you, and sometimes even your friends,
Look,
sometimes even the people you hang out with the most, they don't want to see you grow and prosper
I was
and leave them
scared
behind.
to death to leave my full-time job.
I
That's
bet.
why I said I gave him a 6-week notice, not only because of that, not that's not a reason, but I because that's the guy I am. I could have gave them 2 weeks, but I wanted to make sure that the what I did and the vision that I had, that it was taken care of before I left, and they
Yeah.
appreciated it. And because Lord knows, if I got to go get a job, no means am I going to this negative. But if I have to get a job, I'm pretty sure I can find a job.
That's
You know,
not gonna be a problem. You
I
won't
know.
have
I
any
mean,
trouble there.
it's
Yeah.
just the thing.
Yeah.
But
But I
look,
don't think you'll have to go down that
nah,
road.
we're
I think this dream of yours of a brick and mortar restaurant is going to be a reality. I can't predict the timeline. That's in God's hands, not ours. But I know this: you've got the talent, you've got the work ethic, you've got the patience, and folks, I've tasted it. You've got the product. That's some darn good cooking at Tootsie's. So I'll leave on that.
yeah,
Morris, I want to thank you. You've been a wonderful guest. As I told people at the outset, you're one of my favorite guests yet. I meant that, and this has been one of my favorite interviews. So, Carrie, I know you're listening over there on the side. You guys share an office there. Thank you for sharing your husband with us. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and I appreciate it. And to our viewers, folks like the mayor who stuck with us to the
that's
end,
right.
thank you for tuning
Thank
in.
y'all.
Ponchatoula Live. We'll be back next week.
Yes,
Y'all
sir.
take
Parker,
care.
see you soon. Thank y'all.
Thank you, brother. Bye
All right,
bye.
man.